Hey guys, this is Jay Calder with Jay Unboxing here, giving you a personal prediction for Conor Benn versus Chris Van-Heerden. And as always, this is just my personal take. Would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments section below, whether that's a bet, a prediction, any of that good stuff there. It's a fairly interesting fight with a couple of interesting dynamics that we'll get into, so definitely love to hear what you think is going to happen in this fight. All that good stuff can be left down in the comments section below. A little bit of fight info here. As mentioned, we have Benn versus Van-Heerden, which will be taking place at the Manchester Arena in Manchester, England, airing live on DAZN in the welterweight division. And for a few reasons, this is actually a fairly interesting fight. It's sort of another step up in the career of Conor Benn, and he's had about 10 of them, so he's pretty good at them. And you're kind of looking to see just how well he does against an opponent that other top 147-pounders have faced. Can he do better? Can he stop him quicker? Can he produce a better result that you can market against those other big names? Or does Van-Heerden pull off the upset, a rather sizable upset to say the least, as we'll get into with the odds a bit later. You know, both are tough though. Both are full of confidence, I believe. I really do believe their confidence as well. So you kind of have that dynamic of, will Benn live up to the expectations? Can Van-Heerden outperform his expectations? You're sort of looking to see that in this fight, which I think makes it a lot more interesting. So with all of that in mind, let's break this one down. So starting with Benn here, the first thing I would say is don't abandon the body. Van-Heerden has been hurt to the body in the past, and that's certainly something you're going to look to try and duplicate in this contest. It's sort of like a bad chin. I don't really think you develop a great one over time, just like I don't think you develop an ability to take those kind of shots to the body. And Benn can certainly whoop those hooks right into the body. He does a pretty good job of that, rather, especially with that right hand. And I think if he gets that going early and often against an older foe, against a guy who doesn't have the biggest pop in the world, and he begins to lower that guard, it'll pay dividends for him later on in this fight. I would also say line up that right hand. Van-Heerden at southpaw. Of course, the right hand is kind of the shot you're looking to land against a southpaw, especially when you're an orthodox fighter. I also think you can have some great success with the left hook, which Benn has a decent one as well, but that right hand keeps it a lot simpler. He has a very fast right hand, and if he could shoot that down the middle, especially after lining him up with that left hand and crouching him over with those body shots, that right hand's definitely going to pay off, and I think that'll probably be the shot that causes Van-Heerden the most trouble if Benn is to land that sort of troubling shot. And finally, I would say don't pull straight back. One of the issues that Benn does have sometimes is he will have defensive lapses, and it's not so much that he isn't capable of defending himself, but rather that he gets so offensive-minded that he's just looking to press. At times, that will lead to him just pulling his head straight back on a string, trying to basically stay in the pocket so he can continue to attack and trying to just slip the shot. Well, that works sometimes against guys who are a little taller, however, who have a little more reach than you might. In Van-Heerden, for example, you can get tagged with those kind of shots, not see them coming, and it's that shot that will always hurt you. So it's certainly something that I think Benn needs to look to avoid. Moving over to Van-Heerden here, for him to win, I think he needs to counter with the left. And I think especially over the top of some of those shots from Benn, Van-Heerden will have some success with that left hand. He's obviously going to have that as his power shot anyway. He is a southpaw, but he can sneak that in pretty well. He's landed that against pretty top-flight welterweights in the past. So if he can get that going against Benn early on, it could potentially give Benn something to think about, so he's not just coming in and looking to destroy. In fact, it'll make him think, and that's where I believe that Van-Heerden can have some success. If he makes it a little more of a slower pace and forces Benn to have to sit back a little bit sometimes, he'll then be able to capitalize on those lulls and potentially win some rounds. I would also tell Van-Heerden to stay off the ropes. Benn is looking to press you back, and one of the biggest reasons why you don't want that, aside from the fact that he's the power puncher in here, at least presumably, and he is certainly looking to try and press you back, one of the reasons you don't want to do that is because it gives up your sort of dimensional advantages. If you're pressed back and you're a taller guy with longer reach, the issue there is that, well, you've given up your reach and you've given up your height, because now you're typically leaning up against the ropes, which makes you shorter, and of course your reach doesn't matter nearly as much because the other fighter is now pressing a lot more into your torso, and now it's just simply a matter of who can land faster, land more, and land better shots. If he presses you up against the ropes, if you're Van-Heerden, I think the answer to who lands those better shots will be Benn, so that's certainly something you're looking to avoid. And finally, I would say pick and choose your exchanges. You're not going to be able to just win this by, landing those kind of pity pat shots or those pot shots if you're Van-Heerden for a number of reasons. Whether it be that you just likely aren't to win that kind of decision in Manchester against Conor Benn, or that it's just not going to be enough to keep the younger, hungrier fighter off of you. I think you need to exchange at certain times. That being said, you're not trying to exchange power shot for power shot because pound for pound, I think Ben probably wins that war. What you can do, however, is again throw those left hands over the top. You can pick and choose in between those shots of Conor Benn to try and land those shots, walk him into something. If you're going to go up against the ropes, you can lull him into sleep with that and kind of come off there and land that quick left hand. Shots like that will work that effectively are in those kind of exchanging moments, but are not so outright in exchange that you're giving Ben an advantage in this fight that you're obviously not looking to give him. Now, I do think Van-Heerden will test Ben in a few ways, especially early on, but I do see the Brit having just a bit too much, both in terms of power, speed, and kind of youthful energy. Barring him being walked into something he doesn't see coming, I do think that after a few relatively close opening frames, I can see Ben begin targeting the body and slowing Van-Heerden down, and this, of course, will look to back Chris up, which it will do. With Chris on the back foot, he loses many of those physical advantages that I mentioned, which of course gives Ben all the more time to land those harder shots and eventually, in my opinion, put Van-Heerden down. The South African is tough, so I think he beats the count, barring it being some just absolutely concussive blow, but the follow-up barrage from Ben will ultimately be enough to cause a halt to the action. In my opinion, Conor Benn wins this fight. Conor Benn via late fight stoppage. A little bit of a bonus pick here. On the undercard, we have a cruiserweight clash between Chris Billam-Smith and Tommy McCarthy, which is a rematch of a very good fight that they had recently. This is going to be for the European and Commonwealth cruiserweight titles held by Billam-Smith, and I think this is a very interesting fight, so I figured I'd give this a pick as well. Just quickly here, for Chris Billam-Smith, I think he needs to do a couple of things here to win this fight. One of those would be double the jab. Again, when a fighter is a little faster than you, which I think McCarthy is, a double jab can offset that timing and that rhythm, and that's certainly going to be something that'll pay off for you in this fight. You can also press an attack to the body if you're Billam-Smith. If you're pressing him back, again, you're taking away maybe some of the reach advantages that he might have, and attacking the body is only going to slow him down, which McCarthy did somewhat fade in their first fight, so that's certainly something you're looking to do, perhaps even earlier in this encounter. And of course, I would say look to land that left hook. He stunned McCarthy a couple times with it in that first fight, and he has a good one to begin with, so there's certainly no reason why he should be looking to abandon it in this fight. In fact, I would obviously say emphasize it. Now, for McCarthy, I would say you need to jab and feint. When he did that, especially early in that first encounter with Billam-Smith, he had a really good success rate. He would feint, sucker him in, throw that jab, and would just be a power jab at that point because you have Billam-Smith walking into it. That's certainly something you're looking to repeat in this fight. But I would also say pace yourself just a little bit more. You want to build into the fight, and I don't think he did that nearly as well as he should have in that first encounter. Now, in fairness, Billam-Smith did some things to offset that, and there was that cut over McCarthy's eye that kind of threw him off his game a little bit, but so long as he can avoid those kind of cuts, I think he has a better chance of kind of progressing in the fight as opposed to regressing, which would obviously benefit him. And of course, make sure not to trade power shots. He did that in some of those middle frames again with Billam-Smith, and I think that zapped a lot of his energy as well. So if he can avoid that in this fight, I think he has a better chance of kind of finishing strong and potentially picking up the decision. In terms of my pick here, I originally went with McCarthy in the first fight, and I can see my own reasoning, believe it or not, as crazy as that sounds. But in this case, I'm having to switch sides and switching my position here to Billam-Smith. McCarthy faded in that first fight, and the problem with that is if he tries to press harder, he likely gets hurt or fades faster. If he doesn't adjust, he likely repeats the same sort of loss that he had in the first fight. So he's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. The power of CBS will press the fight, eventually tire McCarthy in those middle frames, and earn him another decision, but this time I think it'll be by unanimous decision as opposed to split decision in their first encounter. Winner is Chris Billam-Smith by unanimous decision. Now, the betting odds for these fights I'll give you here. In the main event, you have Conor Benn as a massive favorite. He is a minus 950. You are going to stay away from that line. There is absolutely no value in it, not with a parlay, not with the straight-up line. It's pointless. There's too much risk because, again, he is still testing the waters at the top level, and you're just not getting a great return on your value. I mean, it's 10 to 1. I shouldn't have to explain that. For Van-Heerden, you have a decent bet here if you're interested, especially if you like calling those kind of underdogs with a little bit of money on the line. He's at a plus 550. That's not terrible. Again, you're getting 5 to 1 odds. probably lose because, again, unless he stops Ben, it's going to be hard to even imagine him getting a decision. But at the very least, you're giving yourself 5-1 odds. It's not the worst thing in the world. If you can lay a small bet that you're expecting to lose on there and it happens to pull off, fantastic. If not, again, it's a small bet, but a line that's big enough in the favor of Van Heerden that I see some value in it, at least in that respect. In that co-featured bout, you have much closer lines with Billam-Smith a favorite at 2.5 to 1, at basically coming in at minus 260 rather. Again, fairly decent line. I don't know how much I would be willing to lay on that. That'd be more of a line I'd look to parlay if I was looking to do something with that line. McCarthy you have as a plus 190. Again, I think McCarthy's a decent fighter. I rate him. I think he has some decent boxing skills. So if he can correct some of the things from that first fight and perhaps avoid getting cut where it kind of distracts him a little bit down the line or tires him out, he has a shot at pulling this off by all means. In other words, if you can convince yourself that he wins this fight, it's not an unreasonable bet by any means, but certainly something that you'd have to look into as well. And my prediction record heading into the weekend is 11-4-0 with 3 exact. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. What do you think of these two fights? How interested, how exciting are they? Are you looking to make any bets? And if so, please tell me those down in the comments. We'd love to know all of that as well. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at jcalderon_JOB. And you can email me at jonboxing@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you there. Also, be sure to check out JayGonBoxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, rankings, and more. Later this week, be sure to check out my Fighter Grade series, which I will be releasing after the weekend's fights. And, of course, down in the description box, you can click the link and check out my prediction for Errol Spence versus Yordenis Ugas as well. And as always, until next time.